Okay, good morning. We're doing a road reflection and some things that came to me this morning. So we're going to start with the unity prayer. Our adorable Jesus, may our feet journey together. May our hands gather in unity. May our hearts beat in unison. May our souls be in harmony. May our thoughts be as one. May our ears listen to the silence together. May our glances profoundly penetrate each other. And may our lips braid together to the mercy from the eternal Father. Amen. So we're traveling here on the feast of St. Peter and Paul. And I was reflecting in prayer this morning on the shepherd and the story, the parable of the lost sheep. I often wondered, why would Jesus, as the good shepherd, wander off and leave the 99 to find that one lost sheep? And I was keen to understand recently that Jesus trusted God the Father to keep the rest of the flock together while he went off to find the lost sheep. This morning in prayer I was reflecting on what happened that caused this sheep to get lost in the first place. And I was, as the flock is together, you've got the bleating lambkins, and you've got the sheep that are all, their voices are being heard. So how did this one wander off, and how did everybody else miss that sheep? So I was told that I was reminded of something mothers often do when children get to a certain age. How often have you heard, "You're not listening to me. You didn't hear me. Did you hear what I said?" They tend to get a little tone deaf. They wander off. This is something very important that I heard when we were in Medjugorje. Satan tries to come between our prayers and our peace, especially peace in the family. He wants to separate us from the flock, as he did Eve. He was very successful there by separating us. So he's going to do whatever he can. These sheep, and how many sheep, wolves in sheep's clothing, they come in so many different forms and fashions right now to pull and draw these off. They're deaf to the words of the shepherd. They don't hear his voice. We have a situation where so many are away from the flock already. How can you recognize the voice? I know mine and mine know me. They hear my voice. Jesus said, "He who has ears should hear." You can't hear his voice. You can't recognize his voice without repeatedly hearing it. How can you hear his voice when you're not within earshot? For those of you who are watching the Mass rituals online, some of you have physical limitations and you're not able to be there. I get that. But for those of you who don't, you need to come together and stick together as a community. The flock has to be together, and it's not just you uniting with your neighbors. It's all the angels and saints that represent the churches, or the church militant. There are those of us now that are vulnerable, especially when children reach a certain age. They become tone deaf. They listen to the voices, noise. They're off chasing rainbows. And we need to hear the flock, the voice of the flock, collectively in the mass, and even in small group cenacles, where we share with each other. We can't even recognize who's missing because nobody's coming. So we need to come together in unity, in communion, collectively. And then we can recognize if someone's slipping away and call them back home. We can pool together with our friends and neighbors and share that one of our children aren't carrying on the faith, and we start calling out together so that our voices are heard to bring them back into the fold. We have a responsibility. It's not just the shepherd. We all have to be shepherds. I'm driving right now, and the smoke from Canada is thick here in Wisconsin. And I'm reminded that the battle was fought and won 2,000 years ago. Jesus died on the cross with Mary at the foot of the cross. The battle was already won. The door of salvation was open for all of us. And for the last 2,000 years, Jesus and Mary have collectively been trying to separate the wheat from the weeds. And Satan just wants to burn down the fields. He's doing everything he can. The smoke of Satan is on us now. It's reached the highest heights. We have to come together collectively now. We have to stand in unity now. And we have to make our voices heard together. Because if enough people are in union and communion in that church, and we make our voices heard in that church, guess what? We're going to start picking up orphans, and the flock is going to continue to get bigger. That's discipleship. We all become the voice of Christ when we come together in unity. Let's stand together in unity against a common enemy. And for all you that are not of the Catholic denomination, during World War II, we were United Nations. Here, now, in this time, we need to be united denominations with Christ as our King and a common enemy that we all battle now. Thank you for listening. God bless you all.